We're in this mess because society's lost sight of what's most important. What matters most to me is my faith and my family. And I know I'm not the only one who believes that way. So we're joining together as God-fearing men and women to take the light into the darkness.
You know, one of the reasons that we love to hunt is because of the memories that we're able to go out and make. And I think all of us would agree that having somebody there to experience those memories with makes it even better. And for pro staffer Paul Powers, outside of his dad, he spends more time in the woods every year with his cousin Dustin Yao than he does anybody else. And Paul would definitely tell you, having somebody there with you to experience those memories with makes the hunt that much better.
One of my all-time favorite hunting buddies, old DY, Big Lefty, we call him. He's my cousin. We've been cousins for years. Cut. Start over.
The big DY, Shady Slam in the back. We're gonna drop the hammer on something. We're taking our little man, his inaugural journey. Go get after him.
We neither one were blessed to have a brother. We both have two beautiful sisters, but we've been hunting together since we were little boys. Growing up at my grandma's house, hunting and fishing together, that's just what we did. He's always been ready to help, move stands, set up cameras, whatever there is to do that he can help with, he's willing to do it. So I'm always anxious to get behind the camera and go hunting with him. He's always a good time. He gets excited, I get excited, and he's a great ability to get it done when the time comes. Those Western Oklahoma bucks roll out on those ridges, and he has a rifle in his hand. He means business more often than not. While we're sitting there that morning, it's a beautiful morning in Western Oklahoma, almost no wind, which is unheard of out there. Just a gorgeous day, and I look down under a tree, and a buck's making a scrape, and he picks his head up. Not the biggest buck in the pasture, but we knew it was a nice mature buck. We talked about it. He only had a couple of days left to hunt. He'd been helping some other guys that week. He knew his time was limited, so as we watched this buck, and the more we watched him, and as he walked across that ridge, it became pretty obvious that he was going to let the hammer down if he got the opportunity. It's just too pretty of a morning not to go ahead and let that deer have it. We were glad to get him. He's a great buck, and DY made a great shot.
Well, rifle season in western Oklahoma has become a family tradition for the Powers family, and Paul loves to bow hunt, but he's not afraid to hit the woods with his family with a gun in hand, and that's exactly what him and Dustin are headed out to do.
Good shot, son. Here we are, DY laid the hammer down. This buck came out of these trees, walked up this bank. DY's got a whole barn full and house full of big bucks, so he knows what a big one is and what he wants. He also knows he's limited on time, so today he was ready to roll. We came in here, it's a beautiful day, about 25, 30 degrees. Just perfect. What guys like us, it's what we look forward to every year. Well done, my friend.
Thank you.
He did her again.
Well, if you've watched Final Descent Outdoors much, you know that we're more than just a hunting show. We want to be able to share with people about Christ and also about how God works in our own lives. Well, this past season, Pro Staffer Jason Cariker and Field Staffer Joe Dansby, they got to experience God moving in their lives firsthand.
My name's Joe Dansby. I've been filming with Final Descent Outdoors for 2 years now. Jason Cariker and I have been best friends for as long as I can remember.
I'm Jason Cariker. I've been co-owner of Final Descent Outdoors now for 2 years. At the beginning of 2013, God really started working on my wife Bridget and I to become foster parents. With this commitment, I knew that my time in the woods could be limited, so I just wanted to make sure I had things in order.
So September 22nd rolls around, and Jason and I both had some free time. We thought we'd go out to the ranch. We'd been getting some really good pictures of this buck on one of our wild game innovation cameras over a wheat field that we'd planted. And it was kind of in a bottlenecked area, so it really made sense that we needed to put a stand there. We get out there, we get the stand hung, and we noticed that one of the limbs that really needs to be trimmed down. It's a fairly large limb and it's gonna take a ladder and a pole saw. So naturally, we set the ladder up and we're trying to be as safe as we can about it, as always. And we get the pole saw and I climb up to about a height of 8 or 10 foot where my feet are at. And so I start the saw back up, cut the limb. The limb hits the ground and bounces and hits the bottom rung of the ladder. What happens next is something I'll never forget.
When the limb fell and hit Joe's ladder, it was like everything was in slow motion at that point. As soon as I saw his arm and the amount of blood that was already all over him, I knew that we had a situation that had to be immediately taken care of.
Once I realized what happened, the first thing I did was wiggle my toes, and I was thanking the Lord that I could. Didn't really realize the extent of the injury at first until Jason had came over. Realized really quickly that we needed to hurry.
I literally did not let off the gas the entire time. We ran through I don't know how many gates, and every time I hit a bump, Joe would lose a substantial amount of blood.
We were 8 miles from the nearest blacktop road and about 30 miles from the nearest hospital.
It took a lot of faith on my part to believe that Joe was gonna pull through this. You know, the devil really started trying to work on me because the truck started running out of gas, and I knew that if I did not get him to an asphalt road to meet that ambulance, there was a chance that I was gonna sit there and watch my friend die in that truck. And I knew that God was the only thing that could help us.
So as we're en route to meet an ambulance, I call my wife. My wife knows that I don't go to the hospital for anything. So immediately she knew it was pretty serious. Her and Jason's wife were together and they immediately started calling church members and putting it on social media. And within a matter of minutes, I had hundreds of people praying for me. So when I get to the ER, they roll me into one of the triage rooms there, and they're ready for the worst, obviously, because I've lost a ton of blood. They cut the bandage off of me and I'm not even bleeding. I believe in the power of prayer. So after the doctors discovered that I didn't hit any major arteries, ligaments, muscle tissue, they couldn't really explain to me why I'd had so much blood loss. I believe I'm a living testament of the power of prayer.
changed a lot of things for us, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. You know, he wasn't able to hunt from a tree stand at that point, and we decided to go out and throw a couple of ground blinds up just to make things a little easier on him while he healed up.
So I hunted one particular ground blind quite a bit. It was a great travel corridor, lots of deer activity, lots of movement through there, lots of buck activity. We had one 6.5-year-old 8-point on camera, and we knew he was coming through there a lot.
Well, now it's December and it's super cold outside, and Jason gets a rare opportunity to hit the woods. He grabs up his brother to run camera for him, and they're heading out to that exact same ground blind, hoping to get a big mature buck on the ground on this property. Well, Jason and his brother have made it to the ground blind and they're already seeing deer. Now, I'll admit it's one of the coldest days of the year so far in Oklahoma, and Jason's decides to break out what looks to be this black fur coat gorilla suit looking thing. I'm not really sure what's up with that, but it's cold outside and I guess you just have to do what you gotta do. Well, Jason's got the gorilla suit on. Now he's got a buck that he's after right in front of him. All he's gotta do is make the shot.
There's that 10-point. Yes. It worked out perfect. Oh my gosh. What a shot. 51 yards. Can you believe that?
Good shot.
What a shot.
Good shot.
Yes.
Oh
my gosh, what a shot. I cannot believe that. Well, here he is. My first perfect 10 I've ever shot, and I could not be more excited. He stepped out at 51 yards, put him down, he did not move another step. Those QAD broadheads did their job. This Ross bow put it right on him. So I could not be happier right now. It's amazing. My lucky fur coat got it pulled off this year.
Well, as the season comes to a close, I didn't end up being the guy that shot the big buck this year, but I am truly thankful for everything that I have and a friend like Jason that could be there when I needed him the most.
Satan, your kingdom must come down. Satan, your kingdom must come down.
When I see this deer on the wall now, I'm not even reminded of the hunt. I'm reminded of God's faithfulness Psalms 34:4 says, when we seek God and trust Him, He will deliver us from our fears. During the initial stages of Bridget and I becoming foster parents, it took a lot of faith and a lot of trust in God to overcome those fears that we had. Through that, it built our faith in God that when you have a situation like Joe and I had, that you know God's going to take care of you. There's not a doubt in your mind. You know, as we were driving down that road, I just prayed and I knew that God was hearing our prayers.
Voice of Jesus say, Satan, your kingdom must come down.
Maybe you're at home watching the show and God's called you to do something in your life that you're scared to do or that it's going to require a lot of faith. Well, I can promise you God is faithful and He will come through for you in any scenario that you have.
We're gonna shout until they take kingdom down. We're gonna shout until they take kingdom down.
If God has called you to something and you're struggling to make that commitment, we want to encourage you. Just send us an email, send us a message on Facebook, whatever it takes. We want you to know that we're here for you and we're going to pray for you and see this thing through. God is faithful, God is who He says He is, and God will remove those fears. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We'll see you again next week.
Golly. Sucker's harder than it looks. That's not as funny now, is it?
That is awesome.